Alex, welcome to the Group X podcast. It's so good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be on with you today.
Now, I'm excited to get to know you, and I know my listeners will be as well. So let's kick it off right from the start.
Oh.
How did you get into the fitness industry? Where does your journey start?
Well, my journey really started in Sweden. So when I was about 20, 21, I got into the gym. So I'd grown up doing figure skating in
Wow.
Sweden, and then stopped that, and I went on to play soccer for a few years, which I really loved, but my ankles are not made for soccer.
Yep.
I kept spraining my ankles on the field and off the field, and it was just not something that I could do in the long run. So I had to quit soccer, and then just wanted to find another training form that was a bit I suppose, no contact.
Yes. Yeah.
I got into the gym and signed up to the local gym where I lived in my little town in Sweden. And they had Les Mills classes there, freestyle classes. So I think the first few classes that I did were actually body pump and combat.
Wow.
And
Okay.
anyone who knows me right now knows that I'm not amazing at combat. Quite a journey, but so much fun.
Yep.
Fun. But that's what kind of sparked my little love for group fitness.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So if you can, touch on the figure skating or the ice skating that you were talking about.
So
give us a little bit about that.
Obviously, Sweden's a cold place. Ice sports are quite big in Sweden. We play hockey and figure skating, and also ice bandy. I don't know if anyone knows what that is, but it's an ice on a field as big as a soccer field or a rugby field. So quite big sports in Sweden, and got into figure skating when I was at about 5 years old.
Oh wow!
And
really young.
Yeah, pretty hard training. Doing single skating when you do your programs and your choreography, and also toward the last few years of figure skating, I actually did a bit more team skating, which is synchronized skating. When you're about 20 to 30 people on the ice, and everyone does synchronized skating in formations and choreography to music. That was so much fun, super fun. But it's it's a lot of pressure, because if you fall, you might take out another.
Yes.
As you go, so it's
wow,
it's really cool. Yeah.
Is that something that's still done today? Is that something that's still that they do today? Wow, I sound really naive when I say that, but I had no idea. I know that figure skating is something, but not not with a whole group of people. That's really interesting.
Yeah, you can look it up on Google if you want. So just synchronized skating. And some pretty cool stuff on there. Yeah, it's obviously bigger in the I think northern hemisphere, where we have a lot of ice rinks and a lot of that.
Yep.
So you may be forgiven for not knowing about.
Yeah. Cool. So when you first walked into the gym, you walked in and you did pump and you did combat.
Yeah.
How was it? How was the experience for you being a participant? Was it foreign? I mean, obviously you had the experience from something that was pre-choreographed with your dancing on the ice and that kind of thing. But how were those fitness classes for you?
I just remember having so much fun. Just being around people, training together. Obviously, with figure skating, it's kind of a lonely sport in a way, at least when you do single skating. And then, what I loved about soccer, I guess, was the aspect of playing in a team.
The team, yeah.
Around, and it was kind of the same feeling when you walked into that group fitness studio, and everyone's laughing and getting involved, and good energy around you to obviously make you train harder and have a good time while you do it. So that's really cool to me. Yeah.
How did the opportunity come up, or how did you then move into wanting to instruct classes?
Well, that was really, so I was just training in the gym for a couple of years, and then I went on to do my university studies, moved to a bigger city, and that gym where I trained at, we actually only just did freestyle classes.
Yep.
I was just enjoying doing group fitness, and then one day the group fitness manager actually said to me, Alex, we're running a course on how to become an instructor, and would you be interested? I can see you doing all these classes, and would love for you to get involved. So that was Ulla-Britt my original group fitness manager, and
Yep.
yeah, she got me involved, and I did the course, which qualified me to teach like a freestyle weights class, like a pump, and then actually freestyle aerobics, grapevines, and all that stuff, and
Yes.
step.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's where my journey started, doing
So
all stuff.
a tap on the shoulder, basically to say, hey, I think you've got what it takes. You know, it's weird. I think there's a lot of instructors that I've chatted to and a lot of people I've met on my journey through the industry that that's the same sort of way that people, you know, have gotten into what we're doing right now. And that whole, hey, you know what? You're really good at what you're doing here. Have you ever thought of doing this? And it's that moment where you, I think for a lot of us, didn't realize that we had it in us, but it's nice to go, hey, yeah, thanks. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I might give this a shot. I'll see where this goes. And yeah, for a good chunk of us, we've turned it into a lifelong career that has been so rewarding and meet so many people along the way.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's flattering to have that conversation. You know, we'd love for you to get involved, and then, you know, when you start thinking about it, oh, could I actually get paid to train?
Yes,
That
yes.
was a motivation for me, also being in uni at the time. Oh, you're saying I could get paid to go to the gym? Well,
Yeah,
I'd love to,
I get
you
it.
know, with
Yeah,
that.
I get a free membership. What?
Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. So what was the first program that you trained in then?
The first program was actually, it was body pump. So I moved to Australia in 2010, and I think I did my pump training, was it that year or the year after? So I trained in pump 75.
Okay.
So that was my first module. After that, I did RPM and then body balance. Yeah.
So, and where were these trainings at?
They were all in Brisbane. So
Yep.
my body pump training was with, I think, Kim Boyd. Kim Boyd?
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember that name. I don't know the face, but I remember that name from,
I think
yeah. Yep.
from all that now. But yeah, that was a great training. I really enjoyed that aspect of, you know, having pre-choreographed classes, having done my own choreography for so long. Although I kind of, in one way, I enjoyed the aspect of creating your choreography to your music
Yes.
and choosing your own music and stuff like that. But you know, to have it made for you and to just, you know, everything is so amazing and everything is so perfect in time with the music, and you don't have to work all that out yourself. Like, that was a nice eye opener for me, almost, to be able to be given that, and it's still like probably way better than I could ever do it. So that was cool. Yeah.
Have you found that the Les Mills training that you've done with the programs you've taught or trained in have given your freestyle classes a little bit more oomph than what they may have had previously?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, at the moment, I only do freestyle, which is yoga.
Yep.
And
Yep.
definitely all the training I've been doing through Les Mills, it teaches you how to teach.
Yes.
It gives you
Yeah.
that perfect structure of, obviously, our 5 key elements and how to do things in the right order, and creating that structure for people in your class. From my freestyle experience, I've never quite had that training before.
Yeah.
So definitely, it's been a big help. Been a big help in instructing itself as a art form, or as a profession, or what you would call it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing I've noticed over the years as well, is the freestyle instructors that have done Les Mills training seem to have a little bit more of an edge over the freestyle instructors that haven't had that training. And that's not to say that freestyle instructors that haven't had the training are bad. It's just to say the ones that I have come across in my time when I was Group X manager and just even teaching in the last couple of years is you find a freestyle class that has a little bit more structure. That I suppose where those of us that are trained in Les Mills programs understand a little bit better in that way. And I think some of their participants or members do appreciate that. In saying that, though, there are still some members and some instructors out there that will never do Les Mills stuff and that are very much, no, it's freestyle, and that's they've got that flair or they have that skill set to be able to do their own, which is completely fine, and there's nothing wrong with that either way. But it's just interesting to see those that have done the training for Les Mills have a different edge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so too. It's really a great foundation for building the ability to teach people. And
Yeah.
people what to do and when to do it, and do things in the right order. I also feel like being a freestyle instructor, previous to doing my Les Mills training, it helped me in the way that, I just got the beat straight away. Because obviously being freestyle, you got to do your music mapping and get the beats right. And, all
Yes.
songs are in counts of 8 and all that stuff. So that helped me to just quickly pick up the beat when it came to my choreography. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that you're right. You're 100% right. So then I did Cert 3 way back in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
Like, feels like yeah. I'm going to say it feels like a decade ago, but it's more than that, isn't it? 20 odd years ago. But I remember the first thing that we did was sat down and I, as you said, the grapevine and those movements was what I had to present for 2.5, almost 3 minutes. Now, I was the guy that rode a bike. I was great at a spin class, and that was fantastic. But when it came to me doing grapevines and chasses and marching forward and marching backwards and arm lines, and that in itself was crazy. However, the experience of understanding music. Now, I'd been playing guitar for years and I'd understood music counts and beats and phrases and, the big ones, all that kind of stuff. But when it came to putting that understanding with music to movement was very foreign.
Okay.
Because it was, for me, on a bike, just pedaling time with the music, you're not really going anywhere. But to get off the bike and then go and do something different was very confronting, but also quite rewarding when you got it. When I looked at the faces of the people in front of me and realized that there's 30 people in front of me that are following everything I'm doing on the beat. Okay, I'm not that thick after all. I've got this. I can actually do this. And it's that moment when you realize, this is something that's a passion, but something that is amazing that we can do as well. Then when I moved over to do my Les Mills training, it was so much easier because I'd had, as you said, that foundation. I got the beat of the music. I know that. Yeah, come on, let's go. Let's do it. But I think some of the trainers that we have coming through some of the courses that haven't done a freestyle module before or haven't even taught anything before, it can be quite daunting as well, not understanding the phrase of music or the counts of music or the beat and that kind of stuff. Yes, they can dance or they can, keep time to music, but when it comes to actually understanding how that comes into exercise patterns can sometimes be quite full
That's
on.
right. Yeah, it's that exercise pattern to music. Yeah, that you got to pick up, which takes, it's more challenging for some people, easier for some, but we get there in the end.
Yeah. There's from module training and people that I've chatted to that have done module training, some people do find that exceptionally hard and very overwhelming on day one. Yeah, to actually be, you've got to get up and have a go on day one. Let's see how we go. Oh, gee, I don't have this at all. And, I'll say that there's probably a good 70, 80, I could be wrong when I say that, 70, 80% of trainers that go through or instructors that go through training that have that moment of, I'm not coming back tomorrow. It's too much. No, I can't do this. Or they're sitting in the corner and there's tears going everywhere. But the fact that they get up and come back the next day, huge. You overcome it. You're in there to learn. No one's going to be perfect. No one's going to walk into a training module and go, you know what, I got this, and walk out of that weekend or the following weeks when you go back and do day 3, your certification, that the final next day you walk in and you teach your class and there's no hiccups. Wouldn't that be lovely if it was? But but no, I don't believe that there's anyone out there, unless they've been doing this for a good 30 odd years, would be able to pick it up and smash it.
It's such a foreign thing, really, because when in life do you, maybe a yearly work review at work is kind of feedback you get in life, unless it's from your spouse or, your kids or something. But it's not often that people sit you down and say, this is what you're doing really well. This is what you need to work on. Try again. It's a big thing when we do our initial module to get feedback. Wow, it's very foreign to a lot of people. So kudos to all of us that have gone through it and that will be going through it. Yeah.
Those that want to, don't be afraid if day one is
a disaster.
Is it? Yeah, it doesn't matter. You're there to learn. You're there with a group of people going through the same experience, but everyone's experience is unique. So just sit in it and enjoy it for what it is, and take away the learning. I think it's a good thing. This is the Group X podcast. Second two. Now, I wanted to ask you how the opportunity came up for you to jump onto the trainer and presenter team. How did that happen?
Yes, so I've been teaching. Well, I teach pump, balance, RPM. Been teaching for quite a while, and then there was the opportunity. Probably is it 4 or 5 years ago now that we were given the opportunity to apply to be on the squad. So that's what I did for Queensland. So I do believe we had to send in a couple of videos of us teaching and, do a little application online. And that's what I did. And then a group of us were invited to do a boot camp up in Brisbane. I do think this was in 2018. So we did a boot camp together where we had to present quite a few times, do upskill, and that was with Jacko and Amanda. And we had a great weekend together and learned a whole bunch of new, really cool stuff that was presenter level, and try to apply that to our teaching. And then I was blessed enough to be invited to be on the squad for body balance and body pump. And then, sort of teaching when there was the need for extra people on the team.
Stage.
Yeah. So didn't present every quarter, but here and there to begin with. And then, of course, COVID, which kind of, I think, lengthened the process a little bit for all of us. And we were like, come on, when do we get to... and then, last year I was invited onto the team for body balance. So I was lucky enough to be invited to do that. And then for body pump, I'm on the squad still, or as a reserve. Yeah.
So take us back to when you were actually filming the video that you had to submit. Did you just do the take one and go for it and that was it? Or did you record a couple before you put it through?
I think there were a few takes. Isn't there? But then in the end, you kind of got to go with, well, this is me. This is what I do. This is me being myself. And, you just got to send it in also and be happy with it. But I'm one of those people, let's try again and let's try again. And my arm wasn't quite straight enough there. And look at my knee bend. Like that. You second guess yourself a little bit. But then, I did send it in the end.
I so appreciate hearing that, because I think the first time you ever watch yourself on video, if you haven't watched yourself on video before, or doing in that regard, you're doing something different where you may have seen yourself on video before, but you've got to send something in to someone where you're going to be assessed. You are your own worst critic, not saying you, but I'm just saying as the person that's videoing, you sit back and you go, oh, that was atrocious. Oh my God, look at me. What? Oh, that's the wrong angle. I've got a double chin there. You don't have a double chin, but all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, what? No, the camera's got to be on a different angle. And you scrutinize absolutely everything to the Instagram. And I remember doing it when the first ever podcast that I put out didn't go to air because I hated hearing my own voice. Absolutely hated it until I got confident in hearing my voice. And the first one though, I was like, oh, do I sound like that? Oh no, I can't do it. The first time that I remembered doing a video assessment for myself for RPM when I was working at Les Mills head office, same thing. I was like, oh, that camera angle is atrocious. The lighting's, oh, yuck, the lighting's atrocious. I can't do that. But it's not about that. That's not what people are engaged in and looking at and seeing. They're looking at how you do what you're doing, not those little things that we all scrutinize ourselves about and go, oh no, I can't do that. I'll need to video that again. I'll need to send it through. I think it's great that you did it a couple of times before seeing it through, because it shows that you have passion and drive around what you're doing as well. Yeah, you're getting the butterflies effect, the butterflies before you go to teach, and that nerves of, I want this to be okay. I think when we lose that feeling is when we sort of need to take a bit of self-reflection and go, am I doing this for the right reasons? Why am I here? So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think self-assessment, and not overdoing it and filming 100 times, but you're going to be better the second or the third time because you pick up on stuff.
Yes.
And that's always something that I've been encouraged to do, when presenting, but also just in classes as we go along and teach and learn, there's always stuff to work on. There's always those little habits that we start for some reason and then, say
Yeah.
beautiful 15 times. Yeah.
Yes.
So
No.
self-assessment is very powerful.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of the guests that I've had on, some of the other ones that I've got just about to release over the next few weeks that have been in the game for 20-something odd years have even said the same thing to me, Tony. We still will, put a video in the corner of the room or set our phone up in the corner of the room and video. They said, I won't say who, but people hear when they've come out that, some of them have gone, why am I saying that? Why do I say that? Doesn't make sense. Why did I say that? And it's nice to hear that some of the people that we really look up to and aspire as instructors or even trainers and presenters go through that same thing, showing that they're human, they have a human side as well, that they're never going to nail it first go. They're some of the trainers and some of the presenters on masterclasses, there's a reason why they get given the music a month or two before. Yeah, we can't do like some people I see do a workshop on a weekend and then go and try and teach on a Monday. No. Come on, give yourself some time. Do yourself a favor and learn it, understand it. I mean, you guys as trainers on the trainer team and the presenters for quarterly workshops, you haven't gotten the music the night before.
No. Yeah.
No, you get it, you get it weeks or months in advance to prepare.
And that's how long it takes. If you really want to embody the work that you're doing, if you really want to have it solidly in your brain and being able to focus on that fifth key element, performance, rather than your choreography, then you can't start the night before. No way. No.
Yeah. Cool. I like that. So the boot camp that you went on, tell us about that experience for you, your experience through that. How did it go? How were you going into it? Give us some information about that if you can.
Well, really, my main memory was just that it was a great experience, and that everyone there was so supportive of each other, and Jacko and Amanda were really, really great with us as well. It's a competitive environment. Not everyone's going to get on, and it's I have to present now, and then I get feedback and I have to present again. But I must say, everyone was so encouraging of each other, so supportive of each other. So I just love the experience for that. But then, so I had to present, both pump and balance. And I think we presented, was it 3 times over the weekend? Kind of like an initial module. Don't quote me on this. I think it was 3 times. And more and more feedback as we were given more information and more learnings from Jacko and Amanda. And then I guess just showing that you have the ability to grow and develop and apply the knowledge that has been given to you. Yeah.
Can you remember your first class after that weekend?
Yes. I mean,
was it different? As in the way you were teaching, was it different to your normal classes that you taught before because of what you took on
I can't
from that weekend? Exactly
remember what I did, but I do remember being so inspired. Because all the trainings I've done with Les Mills, and that's quite a few over the years, AIM 1 and AIM 2 and advanced training a couple of times and boot camps and stuff. And you just leave feeling so inspired. That's really why I love it, because, I teach 11 a week, and there are times where you can get a bit stale and stagnant, and, you find yourself doing the same thing over and over again, like you're teaching a different choreo, but you say the same stuff, and it's easy to get stagnant in your teaching. And I just find that trainings just really fire me up, and trying things in new ways and doing something different every time. So I just remember being really, really inspired after.
So you're on the presenter team for which program?
Body balance and pump.
Yep. Okay. And trainer?
Yes. Becoming a trainer for body balance, which I'm super, super excited about. It's been a dream for such a long time for me, ever since I started, did my first initial module in pump, really. So just going through the process of learning and developing at the moment. Yeah.
Have you had an opportunity to shadow with any of the training?
No, I have my first module with Libby up here in Brisbane in 3 weeks.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, I wish you all the best for that as well. It's I know what that can be like being a trainee in
Mm,
that role or in that environment as well. That you're very nervous. Well, I was very nervous walking into that with indoor
yeah.
cycling stuff that I did. But you become a sponge like you would a participant on
Mm,
the day. Well, for me anyway, I became a sponge on the day, but it was so different taking on board what everyone's emotion was in the class, as well as transposing that, I suppose, getting that in my brain of how I had to deliver that same content and hope that it was going to land in the same way that the person mentoring me
yeah.
was delivering it as well. So, yeah, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy the
Thank you.
experience as well. I think that they wouldn't have chosen you if you don't have the skill set. So they can see something there, but just roll with it and
Yeah,
just have
I'm
a whole
really
lot of
looking
fun
forward to it.
as well.
It's cool how Les Mills really structures all the training, and you bring something up at the start and then you kind of weave it into the next section and then it comes back later just to reiterate your learning and how they build on things. It's yeah, having been through the process many times myself, it's cool to kind of see it from the outside in rather than being a trainee or and at my initial module. It's cool to see the structure and it's so clever how Les Mills does
Yeah.
things. Mm.
Yep. If you can, take us back to a presenting time over the last period when or that's if you can, the first time you got to jump up on stage to either shadow or even
Yeah.
present a track at a quarterly workshop. How was
Oh
that?
gosh. There've been a few times now that I've been up on stage, and each time is just so special because you appreciate the opportunity to be there. You appreciate the people, the instructors that have joined the class, taken their time out of their Saturday or Sunday to come to workshops. So it's just a super cool experience. I remember when I started, when I was on the squad, I was often quite nervous, and sometimes I felt that it got just a little bit the better of me. However, in the last couple of years, having presented, you just kind of become more settled in the role and you become more confident in who you are as a presenter. And perhaps
Yep.
also that step from being on the squad to actually being recognized as a presenter was a good thing for me. And these days,
Yep.
yes, I get a little bit nervous, but just kind of the butterfly nervous. And I
Yeah.
really these days I'm enjoy it more than I'm nervous, so to speak. Yeah, it's more of
Yeah. Yep.
just an
Yep.
enjoyment rather than being fearful of making a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's nice to hear though as well, because it shows your
Mm.
human side as well. I mean, that's probably not the right word to use, but it shows your compassionate side, that you care about what you do 4 times a year, but you also really care about what you do every
Mm.
day when you're teaching as well. And the two they work in together, obviously, because if you're not doing the everyday classes and
Yeah.
you said 11 classes a week that you're doing, that's not going to allow you to do
Mm.
what you do 4 times a year. That 4 times a year is
Yes.
it 4 times a year. Yep. Where compared to 11 times a week over 52 weeks, that's a hell of a lot more that you're doing there. And that's where you come with your skill set to deliver. Because those classes, as I said to people on the show before, guests on the show, that the classes you teach week in, week out are as, if not more
Mm.
important than the 4 times a year. What you're doing. Yet that's not to say the 4 times a year what you're doing is not important. It is, because you've got to deliver education and get those points across to the instructors out there so they can go and deliver it. But at the same time, if you're not on point on your Monday night 5:30 class, as an example, I don't know if you teach that time, but you're saying as an example that that's if you're not on point and not firing on all cylinders for that Monday night class, you got 30 or 40 people in front of you, or however many people in front of you, that are not going to be have the best
Absolutely.
experience.
And being
Yeah.
a presenter, yes, we teach to instructors, so those instructors can go out and teach to their members. The end receiver of all this information is, at the end of the day, that's the members in our classes, the participants in the clubs.
Yes.
And that's really who we're here for at the end of the day. Being a presenter, you can kind of do it on a larger scale, in that you might be able to inspire or educate instructors, but it's for the members at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, hugely important. And it's just it's a real privilege to be an instructor, I feel, to be able to get in front of people week in and week out and trying to do something for them to inspire them, to help them work a little bit harder, or simply just have a good time. So yeah, I think, we must be thankful every day that we're able to do this super cool job.
This is the Group X podcast. So true. So true. I'm going to ask you, and I think you sort of alluded to it or touched on it there. Why do you teach?
Well, really, for me, it's both about mental and physical well-being. So inspiring people, helping people, motivating people to live a healthy lifestyle. And I guess that, when I started teaching, this was it was very much about the physical workout for me, and let's go and push yourself and work harder, and it was all about that. But I think having done body balance and then my yoga training, it's had a big impact on me, just in my life, and also the way I teach. There's a lot more kind of intrinsic motivation now, and about the health rather than how you look, and about feeling good in the head rather than just the body. So for me, it's about physical and mental well-being, really.
That's great to hear as well, because I think there's, and I could be wrong, but I think there's a lot of instructors that are getting to that place, but aren't there yet. They're as you said, the whole, let's go, let's smash, walk away. I know what I was like for so many years when I was teaching back in North Sydney. It was I never did yoga or Pilates or body balance, any of that kind of stuff, and do what I call undo the bad that I was doing while doing the good, if that makes sense. But it's what you're going to do pump, or you're going to do weights, or you're going to do RPM. You need to also lengthen and strengthen in the other studio as well. It wasn't on the studio, but I never did that. Now I'm paying the price of that now with a hip replacement that's about to happen, and one that happened 2 years ago, that I wonder of myself, if I had thought about things differently back earlier in my career, would I still be going through what I'm going through now? Potentially not. If I was actually evening out what I was doing in the way of my training, and not teaching 15 to 18 RPM classes a week and going to do weights. If I, squish that down to maybe 5 a week or 6 a week, also threw myself into the other studio and did yoga, balance or Pilates, maybe I'd be in a different place. I know definitely, probably mentally, I would have been in a different place back then. And I think I realise that now. But it's nice to know that meet people as well that are where you're at with that journey as well, and sort of go, what, yes, this is important. I think the big push that we're seeing with Pilates Reformer and the yoga classes still at the moment is magnificent. It's nice to see the industry has taken a bit of a turn and gone, what, HIIT is still great, strength is still great, cardio great, it's all still fantastic, but we need to look after the mind as well by looking at the yoga and looking at the Pilates and body balance side of what we're teaching and, 100%. And what we're doing as participants.
And I mean, hindsight is a beautiful thing, right? No, but that was the original reason really why I did my body balance training, because I was teaching, a heap of pump classes every week, and I think a lot of step and kind of HIIT classes and stuff like that. And I was paying the price physically for it, and I thought just to myself one day, I can't keep this up. If I want to do this as a lifelong career, there's no way I can keep this intensity up on a weekly basis. So that's when I decided, how cool would it be to teach body balance and actually get to lengthen your body while you're teaching, rather than only doing the high intensity. So that's really why I started teaching body balance in the first place. And then, of course, as you start teaching, you just fall in love with it, and the whole aspect of the mind practice kind of became a lot more interesting to me. And that's when I signed up for the yoga training.
Yep, I was about to ask you that. Which came first, yoga or body balance? So
and of course, I've done a lot of yoga training since. I've done about 800 hours of teaching training. Of course, then help my body balance practice. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So what are you doing these days then? You're teaching 11 classes. What's that mixture of classes made up?
I feel like I've got quite a good schedule at the moment. I've got 2 pumps, 2 RPMs, and 2 balance, and the rest is yoga. Yeah.
Okay. And are there any more programs you're looking to train in the
Oh,
future?
you
Are
know
you
what?
looking to
You
bring on
always
any
get
more?
excited when you see these trainings come up. And, oh, what about if I did sprint training? And oh, core looks so cool. And what about the trip? And I mean, you always want to do all this stuff. At the moment,
Yep.
I'm very happy with my balance. And
You've got, yeah.
you know, at the end of the day, also you can, what's that saying? Jack of all trades, master of none. Is that the saying? I
No.
I find if I
Yes.
teach
Yep.
more than
Yep.
at the moment when I do 4 programs, I tend to drop a little bit in my quality of teaching, really, because you don't have that
Yeah. Yep.
consistency and you're just tired all the time. And yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
or on the
You
side, I
can't.
shouldn't say, but the other part of my work is that I'm a personal trainer. So I always try to kind of balance that with classes and yeah, not teach too much. Yeah.
Yep. Where whereabouts are you doing your personal training? Is that your own
Yeah,
studio or are you
so
working at
I
a
work
gym?
at a physio clinic and we have a gym there. So my background from
Sweet.
Sweden
Yep.
is physiotherapy. So it's nice for me to kind of
Yep.
be in that environment still and to have some, I train people with just general health and fitness interests that want to get stronger and fitter, but also I get a few kind of interesting cases, which is always
Yep.
cool. People that are doing rehab, maybe end stage rehab that I get referred to from a physio, get referred to me. And also I do Parkinson's specific trainer. So I've done training
Wow.
in Parkinson's disease and how to manage that with exercise, which has allowed me to have a few clients with Parkinson's as well. Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah.
That's
Okay. Yeah.
really captured my interest because it's something that I've never thought of before. I know that sounds probably really stupid to say live on here, but I'll say it. I've never thought that. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that if you can. Give us a little bit about what that is and how that experience is for you training someone
So
that has Parkinson's.
So with this training, I mean, I was really fortunate enough. It was my first client ever who had Parkinson's disease. He encouraged me to go and do this training to further my knowledge so that I could train him better. So I have a lot to thank my client Hal for that. And yeah, went and I did the training, and it's super specific to Parkinson's. So I mean, for myself, I'm a big believer that exercise is great medicine for not only our muscles and our joints and our bones, but a whole range of different medical conditions that might happen throughout our lifetime, and Parkinson's is definitely one of them. So with Parkinson's, you tend to become smaller in your movements, smaller and slower. Maybe when you're walking, a little bit stooped
Yep.
forward and don't have much arm swing. Maybe reaching up, it might take a lot of effort to actually straighten that arm fully and to
So,
rather than to just reach up a little bit. So Parkinson specific training is very much based on making the movements big, is based on amplitude of movement. So we
yep.
reach far and we lift the knees high and take big steps and just make it really, really magnified to kind of train those neurons in the brain to make more pathways and to use the motor
Yep.
cortex to help create big movements. Yeah. So with Parkinson's, you have lower, or the dopamine producing cells in the brain start to kind of fall away, and that's what makes these movements smaller.
Yep.
So we try to train the brain to make the movements bigger again, and using different parts of the brain to make that happen.
So the style of training is movement pattern predominantly rather than
Well, high
intensity.
intensity is part of it because high intensity is really, really good for the health of our brain. So it's been shown in a lot of studies that high intensity helps actually produce more brain cells. And also when you train at a high intensity, I mean, I'm getting quite scientific here, but I can.
No, look, I'm enjoying it. It's. I've never had this conversation, so this is
Yeah.
brilliant.
So
This
with
is
high
really
intensity training,
interesting.
the brain produces a substance called BDNF, so it's brain derived neurotropic factor. And this specific substance is like a magical elixir for our brain is that it rejuvenates our brain. It makes us produce more brain cells, and it makes our brain function better. So high intensity training actually helps us make our brain healthier. So that's part of the Parkinson's training, neurological training.
Yeah.
But yeah, also another aspect is movement patterns and making the amplitude.
This is the Group X podcast. That's fantastic, though. I had no idea that there was specific training for Parkinson's. That's really nice to know and really great to hear. If anyone else is out there that knew that, hey, you know, tell Tony he's a bit of a slacker for not realising it. But I think that's brilliant that there is training that's specific to people with Parkinson's that are able to help them, but also understanding that high-intensity training is actually good for the brain as well. I'll be honest, something I never knew. So obviously something that I should be doing as well. To help,
and there's actually a really cool book that I might recommend to anyone out there who's interested. It's called The Happy Pill, and it's about how training is amazing for our brain when it comes to mild to moderate depression. And, you know, it makes us more creative. It makes us more clever in many, many different ways. It helps our memory, and that it grows the specific area of the brain that's important for memory, that's used for memory. So, I mean, training, and specifically high intensity training, really makes our brain healthier, and it rejuvenates the brain. So say, you know, an 80-year-old who's never ever trained before, perhaps not going at a crazy intensity to start off with, but, you know, building up, they will actually rejuvenate their brain to maybe, you know, after a year, it looks like a 75-year-old's brain. And same, you know, at any age, it rejuvenates us. So it's super, super cool how all that works. Yeah, so that book is called The Happy Pill.
The Happy Pill. Cool. Guys, if you're listening, or those that are listening, I should say not if you are listening. Of course you're listening. I will leave a link to where you can find that book down in the show notes as well. So that'd be brilliant. I'm actually going for a jump on and try and find that myself as well. Thank you for that. And that's nice to know that what you're doing in that space as well, you know, to help people. It's not just presenting for Les Mills stuff, but you've got something that you're doing still within the industry. I mean, most of the PTs that I've spoken to are working in a franchise somewhere, working in a gym somewhere. So knowing that you're working with an exercise physiology or with a chiro physio in that way, I think is brilliant, because there's not many that I'm aware of anyway, especially in the area that I'm in down here. So cool. So what else can you tell me about what you're doing outside of Les Mills and with your training, that kind of stuff? Where does the future sort of hold for you?
At the moment, I think my main focus is just becoming a trainer, of course, for body balance. So I guess that's Les Mills related, of course. Yes. Oh, gosh. I do run some yoga retreats here and there, which I really day retreats, where we get the opportunity to immerse ourselves a little bit in these practices. And, you know, teaching in a gym, you only have 1 hour to do all this stuff, so there's only so much you can do. So immersing a little bit more in kind of breath work and teachings and stuff like that are really very.
Now, breath work is something that's relatively new to me, new in the world that I'm sort of traveling in and seeing things. Can you tell us a little bit about what breath work actually is and how that it helps the everyday
breath
person?
work in yoga language, in Sanskrit, is called pranayama. So prana means breath or life force, same. And then yama means control or, practice or... So it's breath practice or life force practice, and it's really because in yoga, breath and life force is the same thing. It's the breath, prana, life force, vitality, energy. It's all kind of related. And so breath work is really to help us improve the flow of our life force or our vitality or our energy, and to help us balance our nervous system. And I guess on a straightforward level, it's amazing to just calm the mind and steady the mind.
So if you were to do a breathwork class or I'm not sure of the correct terminology, pardon my my ignorance with that. But what would a class look like? What would we be doing?
Yeah, there are
in a
really
breathwork class?
so many different practices that you can do. I mean, a simple form would just be to kind of close your eyes and bring awareness to your breath. That is a simple form of breath work, just watching, the breath flowing from navel to throat on the inhale, from throat to navel on the exhale, just watching that rise and fall of the breath. That is a form of breath work. You could do it for counts, saying inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. It could be, there are many different ways of doing it, but there's one called alternating nostril breathing, where you use your fingers and you inhale through the right, exhale through the left, inhale left, exhale right. There's practices where you kind of inhale for 3 counts, followed by a long exhale, or doing it the other way around. I mean, there are probably 1,000 different versions of these things.
Wow. Yeah, I've only noticed it because it started popping up on my social media feeds recently. That I would say probably over the last 3 or 4 months, and that's why I asked the question, because I've seen it and sort of gone, oh, okay, I'll get around to looking at that more down the track and see what that's about. That's interesting. Did it arrive from a yoga background, or is this something
it's very much part of yoga? So
if it's something that's just
yoga really is an 8-limbed approach. So the first and the second limbs of yoga they're called YAMAS and NIYAMAS. They kind of are moral and ethical guidelines to right living. So they're commitments that we make in life to become, better as humans, or to evolve as humans. Like, as an example, kindness is one, truthfulness is another one, trying to keep your body fit and healthy through training and healthy eating is one. So there are many different aspects. So there are 10 of this first and second limbs, yamas and niyamas. The third limb of yoga is asana, which is our physical poses. The fourth limb is pranayama, which is the breath work. The fifth limb is it's called pratyahara. It's like a withdrawal of the senses, where you kind of meditate and you kind of, your senses become more closed in, and you not so focused or kind of, driven by your senses. Oh, what's going on over there? What can I see over here? Something up in our head with our senses. So that's the sixth limb, and then fifth limb, and then 6, 7, 8 are concentration, meditation, and enlightenment. Yeah. So that's the yoga, and only one of those limbs is the physical work, which is interesting.
Totally. That's just, my mind has just sort of exploded with that, because my understanding of what yoga was has just been thrown out of the water. That's no wonder you guys do so many hours of teacher training. There's a lot of aspects that you've got to get in with what you're doing there in order to be able to get the message across and teach people.
The main aspect is always probably going to be the physical work, because that's what people expect when you teach in a gym. Yep. But more so on if you do a yoga retreat or something, it's nice to kind of dive into these other practices that people might not be so aware of, that are very important as well.
So how many retreats would you run a year?
Well, probably 3 or 4.
And when's your next one?
My next one is on the 12th of February.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it booked out?
I'm very blessed.
It is. Brilliant. I was going to say, let's plug it for you, but you let me know when the next one is, and we'll put a link down there. If you've got a website too, haven't you?
Yes,
we'll put a link to your website down in the show notes as well, so people, if they are looking for another one, they can jump on there and suss it out as well. So what would happen on a retreat? Can you give us a little bit of info on what you do on one of your retreats, and why someone would want to jump on board and come with you?
Yeah. Well, so generally the day would start with a bit of a grounding meditation. Maybe you're sitting up or lying down on the floor, and you have some blankets and pillows and bolsters around you to make you comfortable, and then we might focus on breath for a little while and do a grounding meditation. Then generally I would do what we would call in my style of yoga, which is called prana vinyasa. We would do a solar practice, which is more of an energetic dynamic practice. So probably an hour and a half of that, with again meditation at the end, which is called shavasana. And
I have a fear that I would lie down in a meditation, or if I was that comfortable, that I'd fall asleep. Because I remember, I remember doing one yoga class back in North Sydney years ago with Dee McNeil, and I said this on my chat with her as well, that the last track we did was a meditation track, and I did fall asleep. I think I'd come from teaching an RPM class and it was full on. I had a quick shower and then raced in because I was like, right, I've got time. A PT client had cancelled. I'm going to jump in there and give this a shot. And I think I do remember Dee tapping me on the foot at the end going, hey, Tone, wake up.
You certainly wouldn't be the first and certainly not the last to fall asleep during. And sometimes I think, it's just what our body needs. The body is super tired. If you fall asleep, no worries. There's never any pressure in yoga. There's nothing that you need to do right or wrong. You can't do yoga wrong. Yep. It's just a nice practice. And, with time we become better at kind of, focusing the mind perhaps on the breath or whatever we're focusing on, and that will help us stay awake. Yep. But that's what you need, and that's what you need.
Yep. So it's just a day retreat then that you do?
Yes, yeah. Generally, and then afternoon would kind of entail maybe some yin yoga, which is some very long held poses and stretches where we really work more on connective tissue, and then again probably some meditation at the end, or maybe a talk on some kind of yogic practice, or all these teachings that are thousands of years old. There's so much to learn and know about yoga that there's always something cool to dive into.
And where do you hold these retreats? Are they on site at a place? Like, do you go away somewhere, or is it where do you hold them at?
Well, generally I hold them at a place here on the Gold Coast called Newmala Forest Retreat, and it's a yoga specific retreat building which is out in the forest, so it's just beautiful. Nice. With all the nature around, and you can hear the birds chirping and the wind through the trees when you're meditating. And so generally I've done it there. However, one day I would love to do a retreat where you actually go away and stay over for a few days. Yep. That would be cool. Yeah.
So no mobile phones allowed, right?
Nah, no phones.
No social media, people.
Out of my class, please turn your phones off. Double check that they're off, and if your phone goes off during this practice, 10 push-ups.
Only 10.
I had 10 push-ups, Tony. That was embarrassing.
You forgot to put it on airplane mode, didn't you?
Yeah. Rang through the speakers. Unbelievable. But I paid the price.
Yeah, it shows you're human, though. Hey, we all make mistakes, and we're not all perfect. Brilliant. Next couple of questions are the ones that I ask virtually every single guest that comes on. The first one is, what bit of advice can you give to instructors that might be listening who are looking to improve what they're doing?
Yeah. Well, for me, training has always been a huge thing. So if you're already an instructor and you're feeling a bit stale or stagnant or don't really know where to go next, do advanced training. It's super cool. You learn so much, not just about how to teach, but you actually learn a lot about yourself and how to be yourself when you teach. It's super cool. So just any type of upskill. If if you're a freestyle instructor, even you could, do some other course that you find online. Just anything we do, we'll always learn something and pick up on something to use in our next class to keep us inspired and to keep us energized in our art form, in our craft, what we do. And if someone is thinking about doing instructor training, I would just say do it. Yep. It's such a cool job that we do, and it's so much fun.
You get paid to exercise, and you get a free gym membership in most cases. So what more could you ask for?
What have you got to lose?
But I like the upskilling yourself and doing, like, if it's a Les Mills training, if you're doing an AIM or what have you with that. I still remember when I haven't taught now in a few years, but when I was teaching up to 5 years after doing my AIM 1 and AIM 2, that's still taking into practice what I learnt on that weekend. It was Meg Nuttall, it was Lee Smith, I think even Andrew Taylor might have been in there as well. And it was so confronting because you're in front of your peers and you're in front of other trainers as well, but you're in front of these trainers and presenters that are here to give you a different skill than what you've currently got. And I've shared this before. I walked into my first class on a Monday lunchtime after that weekend, and it was the worst class I've ever taught because I was so used to going in there with autopilot. I'd been doing it for years, and it was just, yep, cool, 42 bikes, 42 people in there. It was jam-packed. It was great. The energy was brilliant. But I went in there with the skill set from the weekend trying to implement that straight away, and it hadn't landed properly in my head. And I had people at the end of that class going, Tony, that was crap. Are you okay? What's going on? And it wasn't until the Wednesday when I was back in there that it all came together and sort of, fell into place. And that's when people said, wow, we get it. We get what you were trying to do Monday that just hadn't quite landed yet. But you've got it now. And I still revert back to that. And the skills that I learnt there were, you can't put a price on upskilling yourself whenever you get the opportunity to.
Yeah, and I feel even if you're doing something that you've kind of done before almost, it still helps even with my training now that I'm doing to become a body balance trainer. I still go, I don't think I've been focusing enough on my coaching lately, or I don't think I've been focusing enough on my technique lately, or whatever it is. It's quite interesting how when you reiterate these things and remind yourself of these simple basic things, how they can just change your teaching a lot. Because often I think for us that have been training or teaching for years and years, it's easy to kind of get into that performance mode all the time, or just connecting, doing what you're comfortable with, or just motivating, doing that, or just educating. When you pull it back to basics, you're like, oh man, I didn't study my choreography enough. Why on earth would I do that? I know to know my choreography 100%. So sometimes these things can really remind you to just take a step back and get the basics before you start doing all these amazing things that you do in your sleep.
So true. So true. I remember having experience when I was teaching indoor cycle experience with Fitness Network down here in Sydney years ago. And walking away from a weekend training module where I presented, but then realizing there was one or two components of the presentation that I needed to go and work on. And it was interesting that once I went through, did my own education to upskill myself on that even more, that my classes then changed as well. The way I was presenting what I'd normally present or normally teach, I was able to hone in on those skills and use that as a training playground as well, to learn and put those things into practice, which was nice to have that self-reflection as well as a trainer and presenter to go, hey, you know what? You need to work on this. Yeah. I think no matter what you're doing, whether you're just the trainee or you're the trainer, we've always got something we can learn. I think the day we stop learning, the day we should probably step aside and go, yeah, cool, look at something else. Yeah.
And, we owe that to the people in front of us.
Yeah.
They've taken time out of their day to come to gym and to come to our class, and we owe it to them to be well prepared and to do our best, really, because that's our job, and that's the most respectful thing to do for them.
So true. Hey, last question, and then I will wrap it up because I know your time is important, and I don't want to be sitting. We could sit here for another couple of hours, I know for sure.
Yeah,
but what is there anything in the industry that you think needs to change? Is there anything that's out there at the moment that you would like to see as an industry focus on a little bit more that needs changing or needs improving?
Oh, that's a tough question, Tony.
And there doesn't need to be, okay? Yeah. I'll be honest with you, there doesn't need to be. If you're happy with where everything's at, that's completely cool as well. There's not it's not I'm not asking the question to say, hey, you need to have an answer for this. I just ask it to understand and get a bit of engage from everybody that I'm chatting to about what your experience and what you do day in, day out, and the training that you do and the environment you're in is quite different to everybody else. And everybody else has their own journey. I know there's things that I would suggest straight up that I think would need to change in the industry, but at the same time, I'm not teaching at the moment. So my view is different to someone that's teaching, as you said, 11 classes a week.
Yeah. I suppose just coming from a physio perspective, in gyms and in that kind of structured setting, we have our guidelines and how to teach safely. With Les Mills, especially, everything is very structured and keeping the exercise safe. And there are things we must say and things we must do to make sure our members are safe. To keep them safe as well as we can during these classes. And I guess perhaps in other environments, smaller gyms or, uh, kind of local places, local studios, that is not as governed, I
Yep.
suppose.
Yep.
There are classes out there that are, perhaps too high intensity for a beginner, or like, let's do 70 deadlifts now with your max weight, and people tend to get injured. And so, I think in a physio clinic we see that more.
Yes.
And there are perhaps people out there that could use some guidelines and could use some way of governing this whole safety aspect of things. I think the bigger gyms really have it down packed.
Yep.
And trying to get people to exercise safely as well as possible. But then I think perhaps there will always be those places where we might take beginners a little bit too far too soon, or
Yeah.
exercise forms that are not quite safe, that could maybe be adjusted here and there.
Yep.
So I don't know, that could potentially be something. What do you think?
No, I agree with you on that. I think that is understanding who's in front of you. Yeah. Teaching to who's in front of you is vital, vital, one, for their safety, but two, for the longevity of the gym as well. If you don't read the crowd, and read who's in front of you and understand who's in front of you, and ask who are the newbies, who hasn't done this before, who has done this before, engage who's in front of you so you can give options. You're setting yourself up for failure straight away. You really do need to look at making sure the options are safe and what you teach is attainable. Now, whether it's a high-intensity class or whether it's a low-intensity class or a mixture or whatever it may be, making sure that you have options that are suitable for everybody so that everyone feels included. That inclusivity is such a huge word at the moment with everything that's going on out in the world, that especially within the group exercise space, as we said earlier, they've rocked up to come to your class because it's, for whatever reason, they're 1 hour of their day that they've got to themselves, that they can switch off from what's going on at home, what's going on at work, whatever. They come in there, tailor it to who's in front of you. Yes, we're with Les Mills, we have our programs that we've got to stick to, but within them we get given options as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So give the options. If you've got a group of people that want a little bit more, give them the high intensity options. But if you have this group over here that never trained before, give them the easier options. If it's a push up, guys, do it on your knees. You don't need to do it on your toes. Can even be a sort of a half push up, whatever it may be. But make sure we're giving them the option so that they don't have issues and they don't end up needing to go and see a physio or a chiro. At the same time, I'm not saying guys don't do it, because then Alex wouldn't have work because she needs.
No, but it really, is about tailoring exercise to who's in front.
100%.
Yeah. It doesn't always have to be max intensity when we do stuff, because just being active might very well be enough for that person on that day.
Yeah. There's one more thing that I want to touch on, and now it's a bit of a bugbear for me at the moment, and it's instructors putting other instructors down.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you're aware or see it where you teach or anything like that. I've just noticed a little bit on social media recently, and I think that our industry needs to pick their game up. We're all in this together.
Absolutely.
We're not always going to be on the same level as instructing as the person next to us or the person, 2 classes across on the timetable. And there's definitely no reason that we should be slagging off another instructor. We're all in this together. I have a big bugbear about it at the moment, and I'm going to start a little bit of stuff on social media in relation to try and change the stigma around it, because it doesn't sit well with me at all.
No, I think, it's a good thing to bring up, and it's a good idea to try shed some awareness about it. I think I suppose, I haven't really experienced it myself too much, but I mean, I know you know, just on the grapevine in the gym, that it kind of goes on here and there.
Yeah.
You know, I think the main thing to remember is just, you know, there's classes for all of us. There's space for all of us in this industry, and we all have different things that we can bring to the table and that we can offer our members. And
so true.
Different, and they have different personalities, and we have different personalities, and they're gonna, at the end of the day, probably go to the class with the instructors that they have the best connection with.
100%.
And I mean, putting each other down, that's
it's not needed. You know, it's really not needed. We're all in this together. Each person has a different skill set. You know, if we're all the same, God, it'd be such a boring place. And I'm glad we're not all the same, you know.
Yeah.
And there are some instructors that have only been instructing for 3 or 4 weeks, and that's okay. They've just begun their journey into our industry.
Yeah.
Let's not put them down. Let's give them as much support and help as we possibly can.
Absolutely.
You know, I look at it and I think the instructors that are out there that are doing it and that are slagging off other instructors or saying bad things about instructors are insecure. They need to have a good goddamn look at themselves and realize, you know, take a look on why you're doing it. Now, I'm probably going to lose some listeners because I'm saying this, but I do not care. It's one of those things, to me, is very much, it's important for the longevity of our industry. People are whinging, oh, we're not getting paid enough, you know, classes aren't often. You go out there and you create the environment for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you if there's a brand new instructor, it doesn't mean you need to mentor them through, but just check in with them.
Yes.
Remember what it was like when you first started. You know, I'm not saying you, Alex, I'm saying that, you know, listeners, listen, you know, take yourself back to the first class you taught, or the first month or so you were there. You were green as all hell, and you were just like, oh, shit, am I doing this right, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Everyone starts somewhere. So support each other. Let's get through this together, and hopefully we can get rid of the stigma or rid of that negativity that's around, and start with, you know, let's pump each other up.
Yeah. Oh, it's totally important. I mean, that's what we do best, right? Motivating people and keeping people happy. And, you know, so why wouldn't we be the same way to each other?
Yeah.
And encourage each other. And like you say, with new instructors especially, I mean, yes, I mean, we know when we don't do stuff right. We know we messed up our choreo. We know we overtalked that whole track, which was me when I started.
Yep. Me too.
Ever. Terrible, terrible. But I mean, you know that stuff, and what you need is encouragement. That's what you need as a new instructor. You don't need to get feedback for half hour after every class. You know, they might to work on, and that's okay to point out. But at the end of the day, what's going to make you better at that point in time is probably some motivation and some encouraging words.
Yeah.
So totally point.
Yeah, I'll say that to Group X managers as well. If you see it happening in your gym, you know, nip it in the bud straight away. Stop it. You know, be the leader that you're meant to be. Be the manager that you're meant to be, and step up.
Yeah.
Give your instructors some criticism. Give them some feedback. Critique them on what they're doing, but make sure that you're delivering it in a way that is going to land. Don't make sure that it's not a negative way to give them feedback. You know, some of them may need help, so reach out. If you don't have the skill set yourself, then find someone that can help you deliver that feedback. If they're your team, you know, I think one of the posts I put out last week on the Group X Instructors Facebook page, Group X Instructors Australia, was a great GFI can bring hundreds of members to your gym, but a great GXM can bring thousands of members to your gym, you know, and if it's managed correctly, that's what's going to happen. You know, it really comes down to the leadership of who's in front of you to make sure that it's going to be delivered correctly.
It does.
So
it does.
But Alex, look, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on the show for a chat.
Thank you.
I've greatly appreciated getting to know you and you sharing your story with us here as well. So from me to you, thanks so much.
Oh, it's been really good. Thank you for having me. It's been a great chat.